Welcome to the bold analysis, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for over 80 calls I've received for the last couple of days about my whereabouts. I left Watamu with that project. I came back to Nairobi. I spent 2 days. Then I was in Nyakachisango last week. I think that was on Wednesday. And after that, I fell ill. And sometimes when the body is the boss. So when the body says, Kevin, you need to take a rest. So I've been away for now 4 days, but I'm back and I thank God I'm now stable. And we are now back to business. Thank you for those who are calling, just checking out on me. Yeah, I'm glad, and asanteni sana. Now, when this information about the 5th President of Republic of Kenya, William Ruto, visiting the 4th, Uhuru Kenyatta in Ichaweri, Gatundu emerged. I was in Shepherd Resort in Naivasha, those who know that place. I was on my way back to Nairobi. So I had a stop over there just some late lunch. And I scanned that resort. Actually, it was live in, there was some breaking news in one of the Kikuyu, I think that was in Noro. And when I looked around, I looked at the body language. I did not see jubilation. I did not see a celebratory mood. In fact, what I saw are people throwing their hands, just dismissing that. And something clicked in my mind that people had just read politics. People just read politics in that. And someone was telling me, oh, is that breaking news? And probably not. Let me remind you for a fact here. William Ruto drove to Gatundu. He went by car. He didn't have a flight. It was not a flight. He went by car. And that is why if you look at that video, Uhuru was actually escorting him. I was seeing him off akiingia kwa gari. Now, why Ichaweri? Residence. Of course, Uhuru have a residence in Ichaweri and official residence just next to State House. And just another residence in Kilgoris and others. But why Ichaweri? Because it had to be, I traveled to go and meet Uhuru Kenyatta. I don't know why people are a bit, I saw some ODM fellows very restless. I saw a tweet by a lie. So for me, I'm glad that if Uhuru Kenyatta is in the picture, he really checkmates the Raila axis in that government. Because that Raila axis, if you see the way Hassan Joho has been speaking of late, you can really think that ODM joining Ruto government is the best thing that have ever happened to this country since independence, and no pun intended. Now, this visit happened at a context. In this podcast, when we want to interpret political events differently, we look at what context is this happening, because political, such events don't just happen in a vacuum. Especially our political architecture, it works in some specific context. And I want us to look at these 6 contexts in which, 6 or 5 contexts in which this is happening. The first one is the Rigathi wave in Mount Kenya that is threatening to lock out William Ruto from Mount Kenya. That's a context. And of course, Ruto has been heckled even in front of the former president Uhuru Kenyatta. The second context is the Catholic bishop's voice, where some characters have always believed that Uhuru Kenyatta is close to the Catholic Church, and that some of what the Catholic Church have been saying, they never said so during Uhuru Kenyatta era and even Mwai Kibaki era, because the two were part of the Catholic religion. The other context that you have to pay attention to is demonizing Kenya Kwanza for the last 2 years have been demonizing Uhuru Kenyatta legacy and the office of the former president. We're on record when Kanza Dena came out and told the country that even benefits, retirement benefits that the former president is supposed to enjoy, he was not enjoying them. Or rather that the administration was on a deliberate move to deny him some of his benefits. The other context that you can also pay attention to is the Kikuyu isolation card. Allow me to tie Kikuyu isolation card with Ruto Raila broad-based as a context, those two. Now the Kikuyu isolation card is immediately Raila and Ruto came with some, brought in their, got their political matrix together. One thing that has been constant here is just the Kikuyu axis in Mount Kenya. The Kikuyu axis in that around the president, after realizing that Rigathi is pushing the region away from Kenya Kwanza, they've been insisting that Rigathi is pushing the region to isolation. And the reason why, when he was talking about the tribal, the shareholding shenanigans, he was actually pushing the Kenya Kwanza, the Mount Kenya away from government. The other context is Raila's AU candidature. There is a way it has appeared loudly in that meeting. We are going to look at that. And lastly is Kalonzo Musyoka and Matiang'i axis emerging in 2027 presidential context. So this 6 to me forms a basis, a context that not all of them, but when we look at what Uhuru Kenyatta, personal secretary Kanza Dena said and what Hossein Mohammed said, you will really understand the 6 or some of the demands that Uhuru Kenyatta, that William Ruto wanted from Uhuru Kenyatta. But before we cross into that, I want to explain something here. For so long, our politics have been centered around individuals, have been centered around kingpins and kingqueens. And if we mirror back 2022, even after Kenya Kwanza team under William Ruto traversed the country trying to sell a bottom-up agenda, to the tail end of that campaign, they had to fall back to the kingpins and kingpins, and that's why Mudavadi, Amason Kingi, and some other characters, and even Mutua had to be brought so that they represent regions. Now, that seemed to be, even after bringing in 2027 something replaying, William Ruto has been running a unity narrative. And when he brought in Kenya Kwanza, Raila Odinga access in government, and he's been moving the country with some broad-based agenda. So, and I've been saying here that there is nothing like broad-based. What is here is a tribal, a tribal combination being crafted for 2027. I'm afraid, and I'm looking at that is still part of the scheme to bring Uhuru Kenyatta to the fold. But someday, sometime, I think the population must be very objective and must be very keen to the political developments in this country. Both Uhuru, Raila Odinga, and William Ruto have interests. When those interests bring them together, I can tell you, their only objective is to disorganize the masses. The country, even as I saw UDA access, I saw the UDA team, jubilating and speaking with a lot of excitement. The way now Uhuru Kenyatta has joined government, and so government is now good. I've seen a clip. I saw some soundbite from my MP. Atandi saying that so long as, and I think that was a Tandi or or even Wandai, that when Luo's in government, then government is good, and when they're out of government, government is bad.
We can continue to fight for the rights of our people, even in government. We can fight for human rights even from within government. But it cannot be a crime for Jaluo to be the serikali. Mano adagi. Mano kwanyaliye. So right now, because Gachagua has been impeached, now and the Luo people are finding their feet in government, now the government is bad. Even entities like NGOs, civil society, the church, including the NCCK, is now finding its voice. This is certainly a conspiracy, and we can see through it. Mr. Asa Luo is close to the government is bad. Tokaja Luo is out of government, is on the street, the government is good. We can't allow that. We are not fools.
Now this is an old age political architecture that I believe the country must outgrow. So an interpretation that when I have Uhuru Kenyatta on my side, then my government is pure, my government is now good, I think the public must be very keen on that. Let's look at these two tweets. If you want to know this meeting between Uhuru and Raila, between Uhuru and William Ruto, has really rattled, has really disorganized the political scene, and it was there were high stakes in it. Look at what Mutahi Ngunyi is tweeting just this evening. If you cannot convince them, confuse them. This is what Uhuru Kenyatta did by slaughtering a goat for Ruto in Ishaweri, Gatundu, the compound that Moses Kuria and Rigi G threatened to urinate on in 2022. Fact. And so I ask, what is wrong with Uhuru reconciling with Ruto? There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. Moses Kuria, I've also posted just some few hours ago what he has called a personal statement. I'm a bit interested in the last two paragraphs of that personal statement. This is what Moses Kuria is saying. Firstly, we can no longer, and he's talking as a region, we can no longer depend on handshakes and personal meetings to make us feel safe in our country. The frequent handshakes and artificial formations have vindicated President Kenyatta and former Prime Minister Raila on BBI initiative. They were right, we were wrong. I urge President Ruto, President Kenyatta and former Prime Minister Odinga to close ranks and lead the nation in picking from where BBI flopped and to give this country a constitution that speaks to its emerging realities. Secondly, to Mount Kenya region, we like all other regions deserve a strong political voice. It is our reliable right. For all good and bad reasons we have learned, it was a mistake to leave the Jubilee Party. However, it is not too late. We will now embark on bringing all political parties with a footing in the region together under the Jubilee Party. We did it in 2016 when we dissolved parties to form Jubilee. Two undertakings there. Two, something from Moses Kuria post that we cannot depend on this. We need to bring in the referendum push together. The other one is we all form parties and join Jubilee Party under Uhuru Kenyatta. So from that end, Moses Kuria is running a narrative. And this is very strategic. that we can all go and rally behind Uhuru Kenyatta. Now that is why, and that is what I was leading at when I said the politics of saying, you know, we need still not to lose sight on the things that have bedeviled the country. So now Moses Kuria is saying, let's go and revolve around Uhuru Kenyatta. I've looked at the statement both from Uhuru and from Kanzadena. And I can look at that through those letters. I have seen some few things that Ruto wanted from Uhuru Kenyatta. And I don't think Uhuru, and to my end, Uhuru Kenyatta has not granted them. One is validation of government policies. Now, how did he want validation of government policies? This is well captured in the letter by in what Uhuru Kenyatta shared. And first, I want you to look at the tone of Uhuru Kenyatta's letter, press release. It is normal and common practice, and indeed recommended, that sitting and former presidents engage and consult on matters of national importance for the benefit of the citizenry. It is in the light of this that His Excellency Ruto paid a courtesy call to the fourth president of Kenya, His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta, at his Ichairo residence in Gatundu. So he's saying it is normal and common practice. So not that Uhuru did something out of the ordinary. Now, I want you to look at why I believe that Ruto wanted validation of government policies. There is something that Uhuru Kenyatta have said in this letter. He said something here. Among top among these issues are transparency and accountability. He stressed that in a democracy, sector practitioners need to be consulted continuously and sustainably because they usually have solutions themselves. Further, to entrench countries' democratic, he's talking about IBC. Further, continuous engagements are a solution to all-inclusive processes. Even good ideas that are not implemented transparently will create suspicion and mistrust. There is this project of NHIF to SHA. The government is so ambitious about it, but the question of 104 billion being used to procure the ICT equipment, ICT system for that infrastructure, it is what the country has doubted. And to that end, I can see that Uhuru, he probably wanted that Uhuru to join in validating some of those policies, because one of the problems that Ruto has faced is rejection of government policies. And even recently, the Uhuru Kenyatta, William Ruto was talking about, there is a spirit of people just rejecting everything that government is doing. And probably this is what Uhuru Kenyatta is responding to by saying about even good ideas are not implemented, if not implemented transparently, will create suspicion and mistrust. So that is one thing that I can see there. The second issue is to contain Rigathi Gachagua. Of course, with going there, the two things that probably Ruto would want to come out, that have closed ranks with Uhuru Kenyatta, and because the region has, when in the latest public appearance between Uhuru and Ruto in Embu, you can see the kind of reception that Uhuru received. Rigathi is carrying Mount Kenya, going with it, and that is why he's saying, he's talking about the fellows. But I don't see Uhuru Kenyatta granting that. And why am I saying that? There is something Uhuru have said. Okay. There is something Uhuru have said. And I want you to look at, yes. There is something Uhuru has said, and I want us to look at it. He said, the two engage in discussions pertaining to Kenya's national interest and particularly matters that have been raised by citizens as challenges and handicaps to their well-being. This included animosity within political ranks that has created hostile atmosphere, leading to harassment of individuals perceived to be in opposition or hostile to the government. Who are these people that is perceived to be in opposition? Rigathi Gachagua and the Kikuyu team. They're perceived to be in opposition and they faced those harassments. Another team that is also here is those Catholic bishops, and that's why I said that is one of the contexts. So if there's a political card to use Uhuru Kenyatta to contain Rigathi in Mount Kenya, then Uhuru Kenyatta is pulling the statesman card by saying, let us not harass those who we feel are in opposition or are hostile to the government. Two people are felt to be in opposition in this country. One is Rigathi and the Kikuyu team around him. Number two are the Catholic bishops and some section of the clergy. Number four, I think Uhuru Kenyatta wants the broad-based agenda. And the broad-based agenda to join that broad-based unity. But there's something Uhuru have said is, I've picked what Uhuru said because probably I believe in it more than what the political propaganda that the other side have said. Engage stakeholders in all, and they've spoken about the unity. And if you look at the statement from Hussein Mohammed, there is something that Hussein Mohammed have said about it. Anchor track record on Uhuru Kenyatta. He's, of course, now I said he was demonizing Uhuru Kenyatta, but now this also means he is legitimizing and he is now bringing to light the achievement of Uhuru Kenyatta. Lastly, understand that William Ruto also extended an official invitation to former president to attend the Jamhuri Day celebration. So we will wait and see whether this will also happen, whether Uhuru Kenyatta will attend that celebration. And there is this thing about AUC. I did not see it in the statement that either Kanzedena or Uhuru Kenyatta have released, but I have seen one gentleman, Hussein Mohammed, telling the country about that. So I don't know more about it, but let's just look at this. I don't know what you think. This is what he said. The two leaders called on Kenyans, friends of Kenya and international partners to support the candidacy of Right Honorable Raila Odinga for the position of chair of the African Union Commission. Why am I saying about this? Robert Alai was actually talking about it in one of his tweets. So ladies and gentlemen, that to me is what my take. What William Ruto wanted from Uhuru Kenyatta is not so much granted on my end. Looking at the reaction, or rather the letter that Uhuru Kenyatta, the response that Uhuru Kenyatta, reporting of Uhuru Kenyatta after that meeting. Thank you.